Hello, welcome. Hello? Hello. Hi, welcome. I'd like to start off with showing you a little video that we have. So, for those who haven't seen this before, that is Ledger Stax, our brand new hardware wallet and the world's first curved e-ink touchscreen. We've received all the pre-orders we can deliver through summer 2023. More will be in stock later this year, but you can still be one of the first to receive a Ledger Stax if you buy the Ledger Stax redemption token on the secondary market. The NFT also comes with a protective magnetic shell case. Now, let's talk about the lock screen. So the lock screen is the first thing users see when they pick up their Ledger Stax. The lock screen can be customized by choosing an image from the NFT gallery or from the user's smartphone. And as an artist or creator, it's important to know that the screen has these specific dimensions. It only works with still images and only supports 16 shades of gray. Let's take a look at this video that shows the lock screen being updated by a user. We see that the user can upload a photo from their smartphone or choose an NFT from their wallet. The user is then prompted to adjust the crop of the artwork in order for it to fit the device. There are a few options to adjust the crop and contrast, but it's fairly limited from a creative perspective. So we got lucky with this artwork selection by Jen Stark, but not everything is going to look great on the device. So in thinking about the lock screen capabilities of Ledger Stax, we knew that it was important to provide the ability for artists and communities to have control over the presentation of their works. And this led us to the idea to leverage the metadata in NFTs to enable artists and creators to specify a secondary image whose sole purpose is for displaying on the Ledger Stax lock screen. Here's the Ledger Market Genesis Pass #1 and its original metadata. The image field defines the location of the primary image you see everywhere when viewing this NFT. Without any changes to the metadata, this is what it would look like on Ledger Stax. But that's not what we did. We updated the metadata to include this new field, Ledger Stax image. And the result? This is what it actually looks like on Ledger Stax. So at this point, I'm sure you're thinking, I have no idea how to update my metadata. Or others might be saying, for some existing NFTs, it's actually impossible to update the metadata. And that's why we created the Ledger Stax metadata tool. It's an application that allows you as an artist or creator to provide a dedicated secondary image that will be used for displaying on Ledger Stax's lock screen, ensuring that your artwork always looks the way you want it to. When you use this tool, your actual metadata does not get updated, but we update the copy of your NFT metadata that we store at Ledger so that it doesn't matter if you use our tool or not. So let's take a look at an example. This is a work that Jonathan Winbush made specifically for Ledger. And now imagine that you own this NFT and you want to make it your Stax lock screen. He made this. It's a really great video, but how does a video translate to a static black and white image on a screen? So here's what the process looks like. In this case, we're working with a video NFT, and the default image is the video preview. And while it looks great in color and as a square crop, the conversion of 4-bit grayscale and the crop, frankly, leave something to be desired. So this is what the user would see without the ledger Stax metadata specified. So we worked with Jonathan and asked him how he wanted to make his artwork show up on Stax. And so he designed this custom image that fit perfectly within the device aspect ratios and adjusted the levels so that the text could show up very clearly. So now, as the NFT owner, this is what you would see in Ledger Live. It's still the same NFT in your gallery, but when you select it for your Stax lock screen, you see the new image. I'm sure we all agree this is a much better fit. And as the owner, you're way more likely to choose this NFT now for your Stax lock screen. So now I'm going to run through some more examples of NFTs and the secondary images that have been created by artists. And while I do, I'd love for you to start thinking of creative ways to leverage Stax for your NFTs beyond just a simple recrop of your images. So in this example, we turned an animation into a flipbook style experience by selecting keyframes to tell the story of movement in a still image. Celine Sinar has a lot going on in this artwork. It's frankly too much for a form factor as small as Ledger Stax. So she chose a close-up crop to focus on key details. What makes this piece by Brian Morris so special is the color and the extremely high resolution, two things that no matter what you do, just won't come through on Ledger Stax. So in this case, Brian hosted the original artwork on his website and included a QR code that links to it as part of his Ledger Stax image. Now the owner can proudly share and wow their friends by having them scan the QR code and see the artwork in all its glory. Hermine Bourdin chose to lean into the portrait orientation of the Ledger Stax and emphasize texture with a focused close-up. Abdoulaye Berry decided to subvert the device itself and turn everything landscape. As you can see, the initial straight conversion of his image into 4-bit was really hard to see and required some dedicated work to adjust the levels and find a nice output, which was ultimately very successful. And this artwork by Adesola is a limited edition of 30. Because there are still editions available, it was a great idea for Adesola to include a QR code in the bottom left corner here to the Manifold Mint page. Perhaps once it sells out, she'll change it to something new, which is easy to do with our Stax metadata application. So Julie Rose made this artwork specially for us at Ledger. And as you can see, she's adjusted the composition of the Stax image, making it narrower and moving around a few elements so that they fit in on the Stax screen. You know, and the background being black, this one's really great. I love it. So for those who don't know, in December of last year, we sold 4,780 NFT bundles. One NFT to redeem a Ledger Stax with a free magnet shell, and a second Mint Pass, which is what you see now, for the Art on Ledger Stax project. This is a first of its kind generative project where we've asked 5 artists from the generative art world to create works that are originally formatted for the Stax device. With a Mint Pass, you'll be able to mint one of the outputs from one of the 5 artists at random. Mint Passes are available now on the secondary market, and frankly, I don't think that this floor price is going to stay where it is as we get closer to the drop date, which is tentatively scheduled for June this year. Andreas Gissen, Linda Dunya, Sarah Ridgely, Studio Yorktown, and Sasha Stiles are the 5 participating artists. And with us here today is one of those artists, Andreas Gissen. Andreas is an incredible artist who specializes in procedural graphic design and interactive installations. Andreas is well seasoned with different types of physical and mechanical displays and it's one of the reasons we are so excited to work with him for the Art on Ledger Stax projects. In addition to his knowledge, to him sharing his knowledge with us today, I hope he will also tell us how to pronounce his artist name. So please give a warm welcome to Andres.
Well, hello, and thank you for having me here. I'm going to present 20 years of my work, more or less, in a very short time. But I have a sort of a screen fetish, so I like to work with different kind of screens and displays. The right place for screens, by the way, it's worse than a TV top. And but the screens I like to work with are very limited usually, or they're made for a very specific function. And so they have certain limits. And these limits are usually the entry point for my work. So first screen, 10 years old, comes from the buses, electromechanical. Very low resolution. Things that come from the urban context interest me, so I try to get a few of these things. So this is advertisement platform. It's called a prismatic display. It's mechanical. It's very simple. On the same surface, you can display 3 images. So for an advertiser, it's maybe an interesting opportunity. And we managed to get our hands on 2 of them. And so we came up with a design or with a pattern that somehow enhances the mechanical qualities of this object. Seven segment digits. I really like this. It's not a display, it's an element, a module. And with several of these modules, you can then build a structure for information. And the information these screens or these elements usually display is digits. And this is also the name of this installation. So this configuration was made for a surface. We decided to work on patterns and form, but there is a different variation of this piece which tries to display or to work with speed. So the configuration changes. This was the main station, the Zurich main station timetable, electromechanical one. And this is also my city. I was born in Zurich. And as a kid, I was fascinated by this object. In a few years, they took it down, a few years ago, and we managed to grab it, even if it's 7 tons. So this was the night they took it down, and as they are Swiss, in the same night they put up a new one, an LED-based, and the sad part of the LED-based display is that near the information, now they can also display advertisement. So when we are looking for the train time, there is a woman drying her hair to advertise some shampoo. So this was a special transport at midnight, and we put it into a museum, cleaned it, rebuilt it, and reprogrammed it. We didn't change the text, so what you see are still the train station names. This is not an alphanumeric display. Each element has pre-printed the name of the station. 50 or a few more stations can be displayed. Pharmacy crosses, my passion. And this is the right city for this. This is a simple move. You take 3, turn them 45 degrees, and this piece is called XXX. It can also be displayed in a different context. So something happens already if you take an object from the city, from the urban landscape, and put it in a different context. Interesting things happen. But for all these projects, there isn't a software part, there isn't an editor, there isn't something you can just use to program it. So we usually need to build our own tools. And for example, for this one, it's an editor. It's not very functional. I mean, it's not very ergonomic. It's quite hard to use, but it does just this single job. And for each project, basically, I build a new one with the specifics of the display or the screen built in. And as I said, I really like to work with several screens and objects, and especially small ones. I kind of like this precious aspect that the things may have. And the last project I want to show you is a recent one. So I was fascinated by this liquid crystal screen. It's a very small one, very sharp, very fast also. And so you start to order a few of these samples. They usually come in a package like this. Then you build the electronics around. I work with engineers, so they help me. I'm not so good in electronics. My good part is the software. And then you start work. You start to write benchmarks. I always want the projects to run really, really fast and smooth, even if they're small. So I try to optimize for speed. And this is a close-up of the screen. And this one doesn't have grayscale, so it's only black and white. Each dot of the matrix can be on or off, but it's so fine that some sort of dithering can be applied to obtain or to simulate gray values. And that's how the final object looks. So it still keeps a sort of an industrial feeling, more or less. And so this was also an NFT experiment, if you want. So the token was virtual, but then you could obtain this physical object in exchange for the token. But this passion and this joy to play with displays brought me to Shanghai before lockdown. So I was there to explore the city and to explore the urban landscape, and especially the displays and the screens in this city. They come in so many forms, sizes, and shapes. They're basically everywhere. Probably move there. it's a really small one, and I usually like this sort of screen because it's single purpose. It's just made to display a QR code, even though I don't know exactly why they put an electronic one and a printed one so close. The whole city is a sort of screen. This is a highway bridge, and it changes color. It has some animations going on, so it's really sort of a Blade Runner feeling when you walk around in this city. And of course, at a certain point, I bumped into e-ink, and so I wanted to do a project with e-ink displays. This is also strange, this kind of a waste, this beautiful ultra-high resolution, ultra-high contrast display is just there, static, to display a price and information of some phone. But in the city, I found also this one. This is the biggest I saw. It's for the for the bus stations, and I think. Sorry. Thank you. And anyway, so huge e-ink display. So I wanted to look for one. I just show you the images. So I started to program it with 1,000 most used Chinese character and to try to figure out a way to use them in a formal way. I rewrote completely the library that the software library that comes with this display. It was in very old C software. I don't know, it was kind of strange. And I spent a lot of time rewriting this library. And for an accident, I lost all the work. And so I didn't have the energy to go back to this project. So it's kind of it still has this image on it because, as you know, e-paper retains the last image it has displayed. So that's also probably a choice for the Ledger device because you just need to use energy to display the single image, and then you can turn it off and the image stays. This screen is kind of frozen in this state. And so this brings me here. So I was super happy when Monty contacted me and told me about this project several months ago. She said, hey, there is this new device coming out, and it has an e-ink, and so I finally could work again on with this technology. So the first thing I do usually is to build some sort of test image to see how the device reacts, how the screen works, and I knew that this would have 16 levels of gray, so I could test it. But another thing I do, I usually also work with the dithering algorithms. So I built in this test generator, I built in a dithering algorithm, and I tried different techniques just to avoid the grayscale and just to work with high contrast. So this is different techniques. I like this error diffusion one. And then the next step of what I usually do, my approach is I put some ASCII art on the display, and this is how it looks. This is not going to be the final project, but this is more or less the way I work. Thank you.
Good. Cool. We might have some Q&A soon, but so stay close. Thanks, Andreas. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what Andreas does. You know, he usually has lots of movement and in everything he does, and so the idea of artists having to work within constraints in this case with Stax, being still, it will force him and anybody else to really think creatively about ways to come up with ways to make it sing. So we're going to do a Q&A next, but before doing so, I want to make a quick announcement. So in a few weeks' time, we're going to be giving away 3 sets of the Ledger Stax Redemption Token and the Art on Ledger Stax Mint Pass via a contest that calls on you to get creative. Okay, so you've sat through the presentation today, and we want to see the most creative applications of metadata extension that you can think of. So we're going to be hosting a contest on Twitter, which anyone can participate in. All you have to do is update one of your NFTs with a creative approach to the secondary image for Stax, tell us about it in a post, and use the hashtag #FormatedForStax. We're going to be looking for the 3 most innovative ideas, and the winners will receive a Stax Redemption Token and an Art on Stax Mint Pass. So you can mint a work by Andreas or one of his colleagues in the drop, happening in June, and receive your very own Ledger Stax. So I've added a QR code that will take you to a list of all the links you need to get started. We have documentation on how to update your metadata if you want to go that route, about how to use our tool that we built. It's all there in the link. And yeah, so feel free to scan it now, and I'm going to leave this up for the remainder of the time we have, which we're going to now use for Q&A. So if you have a question for myself or Andreas, or you just want to share your first idea that you have about how you're thinking about applying your own art to Ledger Stax, we'd love to hear it. So thank you. They have a microphone here if you're looking to ask a question or comment.
Just you're now trying to put the art on the stacks. Will that be reversed at one point as well, so you can sort of get the an extension in Ledger Live where you can see an NFT that's based on the art on the stacks? Or do I not understand Ledger Live completely yet?
Well, so Ledger Live is our software application that allows you to interact with your devices. And it's from the Ledger Live application that you would then, as an owner, right, look through all of your NFTs and then specify which one you want to pick for your lock screen on the Stax device. The way that the Stax device works, I actually have one here with Andreas's art. And in order to program this, right, I go through that process as you saw earlier, and then this image is then stored right on the device. And even though, as Andreas just explained, it's off, but because it was the last thing we saw was the image, you always see it. So really, like the artwork that every single owner of this device is going to set something. And as an artist, as a creator, you're basically competing with one another amongst the owners of this, to ask them to say, which one of all of their NFTs are they going to choose to display on here. And so, by leveraging this metadata extension that we came up with, you can really, make your artwork stand out from the rest. Another thing that was probably lost earlier was that when you're viewing your gallery of NFTs, we will highlight the ones that are formatted for Stax, so the user will have a clear indication of which ones have optimized images for the Stax, and you'll see that if you have connected a Stax device with your Ledger Live. Okay, cool. Well, if we don't have any other questions,
Hi.
hello.
Will it be able in the future to use your stacks also for like a different purpose than just storing your NFTs?
Yeah, so the first generation of the stacks, it's similar to our other hardware devices, right? And its primary purpose is to securely sign transactions. So, you know, the idea really is that you will go around in the world with both of these devices, and our most recent software application that we've launched for phones is the Ledger extension, and it makes the connection between these two devices really seamless and easy to use. And we suspect that people will be making multiple transactions a day, and connecting to dApps through their phone. And whenever they need to confirm a transaction, you just take out your stacks and use that to sign a transaction. Future versions of the stacks, we've got some ideas about things that it might do in the future, but yeah, that's it for now.
Thank you.
Yes. Oh. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming, and enjoy the rest of the conference.